Hi guys, Joseph here once again. Welcome to this tutorial. Alright, so let's quickly just get into this tutorial. So I want to show you in this video how you can create a basic bed rig and having just one controller flapping the wing, just like you can see here. So how can you do such a thing? It's quite if you look at this, you will feel okay, this how is it possible for me to just have one controller controlling the two wings and all this. And I must say it takes a whole lot. So you just quickly once you understand the process and you can take the pain doing that process, then every other thing will be easy for us. So we just quickly want to do that. So that's just what this tutorial is going to be about. But before we get into the tutorial, please, if you are new to my channel, please do subscribe because I do tutorials like this every time. And also, if you like this at the end of the video, you could just help me by liking the video or sharing it because it means a lot to me. So let's just quickly get into it. So I have another of these which I've created. So let me just quickly create a new scene. Control C, Control N, and Control V to paste this bed here. So this is more like starting from the scratch. So how can we quickly go through this? So I'm going to start by creating the joint. So that's the major thing here. So I will just go to the top view and quickly create the joint. So for me to create the joint, I will go to my character and joint tool. So really, I don't need a null. I'll just start with that. So I'm going to start here. So I hold down Control and click, Control or Command to click. Start from the first joint. Then the next one is this. This really doesn't really matter. It's just a normal basic thing. Then I want to connect from this, which is a second joint, go into the wing. So before I do that, I'll go to the start and just go to the back to do the tail. So I'm done with that. So it's very important for you to rename all this because for you to just keep records of all these things. So I'll start with this. I'll continue with this and put the wings. So I'm just going to start from this, coming here. And notice what I'm doing is I selected this before I click. And the reason for me is that so by the time I start clicking, it's going to make it a child of this. So it's very important. So I'll click here for the first part of the wing and come to this place, click. So let's say somewhere here. Okay, here, then the last one. All right, so I am done with this. I'll just go to the front view and look at what I have created. So notice they are not in place, so I need to manually move them up. So I'll just normally click this and bring it up till they are in place. So I'll just quickly do that. Notice I'm doing half of this. I'm going to show you a technique to just mirror that, so you don't really need to do everything. So I'm done with the front view. I'll go to the side view to do the rest. So you can see that this is meant to be here. So you just need to place them correctly where they need to be so that you don't have problem in the end. So we don't really need this leg. Just want to show you how to do the other one. So we have this. So the other thing I also did was to align all the joint. So this is my root joint. So I'll go to the move tool, make sure this is centered. And for me to do that, I just have to be in my axis mode. And for some reason, I noticed that if you be in your axis mode and you try to zero out these values for the rotation, it's going to affect the joint. And you can see that's not what I want. So I'm going to undo that, even though I'm in the axis mode. So why? So I don't know, but I noticed for me to change this is just a tip. I can just come to this global coordinate value and just zero out all these things. Make sure you're in your axis mode and you have this object selected. Just click 0, 0, press enter. You notice it doesn't affect this joint. It only affects this axis line. So I'm going to do that for all of the joints. So I'll just do, make sure you are still in your axis mode. 0, enter. Do that for all of them. And the reason why I'm doing this is by the time I'm doing the animation, everything will be aligned and I won't have issues. So it is very important for you to do all this. 0, 0, 0, press enter. So if I zoom out, you see all of them. 0, 0, 0, press enter. So all of them are aligned. 0, 0, 0, press enter, and the last one. Yeah, I have one. 0, 0, press enter. So now I know that everything is aligned, so I can continue from there. So once I'm done with that, the next thing is to rename. So I only know that this is the only thing I need, the wing. So I don't really need this to rename all this. So I'll start with this guy, which is the start of the wing. So I think the wing starts from here. Okay, so that's where the wing starts from. Here. So I'll just call this L.wing1. Come here, L.wing2, and so on and so forth. Wing 3, L.wing4, and the last one, L.wing5. And the reason why I'm using this L dots is because by the time I'm mirroring this, I want to replace the L with R. So I'll have right and left. Okay, so that's very important. And now that I'm done with this, the next thing is for me to now do the animation such that if I flap the wing, everything goes. I noticed for some reason that, okay, when I started this, I always thought of using IK tag, and IK tag wasn't really giving me the effect that I wanted. So I now went and searched. Then I stumbled on a longer method, which eventually turned out to be life-saving for me. So, and that is this. So if you select all the wings, make sure all of them are selected, and you come to this coordinate and you choose any of these coordinates, you notice it rotates them. And I'm going to explain what is happening. So now basically it is the B rotation that I need here. So you notice all of them are selected, and you can flap this wing, and this will give you what you want. So this is what we're looking for, B. And what is happening? And this is exactly what is happening. This is set up. We are rotating this guy, and as we're rotating this, we want this rotation to affect the same rotation of this, keeping this initial rotation. So it's kind of hard to explain and understand, but it's just that at this point, if this is at 0 degrees, it looks at the angle at which this joint is. It doesn't bring this back to 0. It just continues with that degree and rotates with that, and look at this and that. So you don't work with an absolute rotation for this kind of wing flapping if you are to keep this hierarchy. So at this point, this rotation will look at this rotation and rotate based on this rotation. This rotates based on this rotation, and this rotates based on this rotation, not based on this. So at every level, there is change based on the previous rotation. So that is very important. So in that case, I'm going to create an expression such that will affect this rotation and relative to the previous one. So that's been said. So what I'm going to do is, let's quickly do that so that we can set that. I will select the first joint, which is this. So I know that the B is what I need. So I'll right click on it, go to expression, set driver, and go to the next one, which is joint wing 2. Come to the B, right click on it, expression, set driven relative, not absolute. Very important. Set driven relative. So if I do that, now I've created an expression. So this is what is happening. Sigma 4D creates an expression for us and tells us that this wing is affecting the other wing, making use of this range mapper. So if you look at the range mapper, the input for both are degrees, so they are rotating about a degree. And this is where the main thing is. You see the input 0 to 360, 0 to 360, but it's making use of a relative method. So we've created relationship between the first wing and the second wing. We need to create the same relationship between this wing and that wing. So that means we have to go back to wing 2, right click on this so that this can in turn drive this other wing. So we'll do, I hope you understand what I'm saying. I don't really understand. I don't know if you guys can get what I'm saying here. So we've created relationship between this driving wing 2. We need to also create this wing 2 driving this so that when this rotates this at a particular 5, let's say 5 degrees for instance, this will in turn rotate this and continue in the chain. So I'll come to this, right click, expression, set driver, go to 3, right click, expression, set driven relative. Go back, right click on it, set driver because we want it to drive wing 4. Right click, expression, set driven relative. Do the same thing, right click, expression, set driver, and the last one, right click, expression, set driven relative. So now that is done. So if you come to this wing 1 and you do this, it gives you that effect that I said I was looking for. So you see, so this is how to go about that. It was hard. You won't really get this effect if you had to use IK, because IK will require you having go, and if you try rotating this, the go will keep still. You have to move the go. So what you're going to be animating is going to be a lot, so much to animate. But right now you only have one to move, and you don't need to select everything anymore. Once you select this and you rotate, it affects the other wing. So now that we have this set up, the next thing is to mirror this. So we select this guy, just select everything here in this chain, then we will go to character, mirror tool. So if you click on mirror tool, you want to go to the naming because that is where we need to name what we're mirroring. So we want to replace L dot with R dot. So L for left, R for right. So that's just basically everything we need. Then you need to also specify the axis. So just specify based on world and mirror. It mirrors to the other end. And the good thing with this is that it mirrors the expression also. So if you do this, also you have that. So I don't need to come back and start doing this. So that's being done. The next thing is to now bind this guy to the geometry so that as we flap this wing, it affects the geometry. So if you click on this joint, hold down Control, click on hold down Shift, click on every other joint, then Control, select the bird, then you go to your character, go to Command, then you are going to see Bind. So if you click on Bind, it creates this skin object and put this weight tag, put all the joints in the weight tags, and it does everything. So if you come here now, where are we? If you come to this wing and you do that, see it affects that. So even though it's really affecting, I'm having some issues here, but this is not weighting tutorial. You could just check my tutorial for weighting, how to weight this, but this is coming out fine. All right, so even though it's affecting this, you could just go and weight that and take off this. If I double click, if I select this weight, so I can see what is affecting what and what shouldn't be affecting what. So see, this should not be affecting this part of this. So if you notice, so what we'll do is we look for the joints. I think it's the L1. So we need to get rid of that. So we just go to Paint tool and okay, so come here. So where are you? And just paint off this. You get, so I'll just undo that. So let's just quickly get to the main expression that I was talking about. So we'll come here and bring this back to 0. So you see that if you select this, you have this, select that, you have this. Okay. Okay, maybe this should have this join also. So you can just add this to this width. So that when you flap that wing, it affects that also. So the same thing, you need to do that for this other guy to affect that. Okay. We'll do the same thing down here. So this shouldn't give us an issue anymore. Okay, so we have that. So let's see. Okay, so you are still having error. So but then let's just quickly get to the other parts, which is the fun part of it. So now that we have these sets, the next thing we are going to do is to look for a way to swing this. So now if I select both of them together and try to do this, you see this is what is giving us, and we don't want that. So I'm going to create another expression that will help us affect these wings, moving this. So as we are moving that slider, this comes down, this also comes down. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, maybe on this bird, we'll go to the user data, we'll come to add user data. So you can just quickly create a group, bring the group out, give it a name. So this is going to be more like a bird flap, for instance. Then put this data under it. So the data, you can just give it a name, flap. Okay, so for this flap, we want to make it degrees. So we want to make it degrees, and you also need to, because we are rotating, so and you also need to specify the minimum and the maximum of it. So you don't want it to limit you. Minimum is more like you are limiting the angle. So let's say we don't want to go below minus 30 degrees, and we don't want to go beyond 30 degrees. So I'll just press enter. So if you come here, manage, this is what we have. All right, so the default value should be 0. So maybe we are going to make this interface float slider. So we have that. So if you come here now, you notice for your bird, you now have another tag which is called bird flap. So if you click here, you have this. So right now, if I do this, nothing is happening because we need to tie this guy to these two objects right here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is right click here, go to Cinema 4D tag and Espresso, then bring the bird down here, the bird model. Click here, you go to your bird flap, we want to bring in the flap. So that's what we want to use to affect that. All right, so we want this flap to affect the B value, right? So that's what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this guy down, start with for the wing, then also bring a range mapper. Okay, so really what you just do is just come and search range mapper, and that's what we're going to use to do that. So let's look at the range mapper. The value is real, fine. Then the input range is degrees, and the output range is also degrees. Then the next thing is input 0. So that's the default value for the input, which is 0. So the lower limit for the input, remember we set minus 30, and the upper limit we set 30. So we want the same thing here for lower limit. For the output, we want it to also be minus 30, and the upper limit to be 30. So that's just everything we need. So if I plug this into this and plug this output to, so we need to also bring this up, coordinates, rotation, rotation B, bring this here. As soon as you do that, notice what happens. If I go to the bird object and I see is affecting that, it's affecting only that. So the next thing we need to do is to let this guy affect this other wing also. So what can we do? We have to go back to that tag here and also bring the right wing. Now the difference between this left wing and the right wing now is that for the right wing, the stuff with it is that it's going to be an inverse of the left wing. All right. So if I'm to plug the same range mapper of the same value, we're going to have that issue. So let me just show you. So if I bring this to this place and bring this here and try doing that, now this is what we're going to have. See? So we don't want that. We want that to be the inverse. So what I'm going to do is on this second range mapper, we're going to come in. We know that the lower input is minus 30, the higher input is the 30. So for this output, we're going to make the lower 30 and we're going to make the upper minus. That's just what we need to do. So if we do this, notice what we have now. So if we do this, we now have this bed flapping. So how can we bring this bed over to, how can we bring this controller here? Just drag it out. As soon as you drag it out, you have this. Now the thing with this is that if you deselect this bed, it goes away, and we don't want that. We want it to always be here. So if you right click on it, you will see show, or display rather, sorry, you see display. Am I right? I think it's show. You see show, yeah, then you click on always. So even if you deselect, it's always there. So another thing I also did notice was that the joints were not there, and also the joints were not also listed here. So all I did was just go to layer, create a new layer, and just call this whatever I want, hidden. Then I'm going to bring all the joints, put them into this layer, then hide them. They are hidden from view, and also click on this. They are also hidden from the content, the object browser here. So if you can always come here and flap your wing, and you have that. So don't mind the artifact you have here. So it's just this, but then the main thing is you now have one controller for the wing. So you can always just keyframe and come to this place, move this up, keyframe, and move up, bring this keyframe, continue, move it out, keyframe. And if you see, you can play this and it goes that way. So that's how to do that. So if I go back to the initial object which I had here, I already did everything by weighting all these things. So if you look here, you have this. So let me just hide that. Sorry. You have this. Everything is fine. Even though I used 40 in this case, even though I used 40, the other one I used 30. So the lowest limit was 40 here and that. So that's just pretty much what I wanted to show you guys. I was so excited when I got this. So to recap, I said for us to do this, you need to create your joint, and for the joint, you need to make sure you zero out the coordinates, making use of this global coordinates system to zero out all the joints. And after zeroing out all the joints, you need to look for a way to create a setup for a joint to affect the other joints relatively. And that we did by making use of the set driver and set driven relative. And after that, the next thing was to create a controller that will control the joints, and that was after mirroring that. So I'm just trying to show you, to explain what we've done so far. So I don't want to take much of our time, so that's just it for this tutorial. So if you feel it was helpful, please do give me a like and a thumbs up, because it helps me. And also, if you're new to my channel, like I said, please do subscribe, because I do tutorials like this every day. So do have a wonderful day, and God bless you. Bye.